That was just like so abrupt. I'm sorry. Oh, there's two Jedis. No way. Hi
Oh,
there.
I don't know.
How did that happen?
Apparently, I'm logged in twice. Woohoo! I get to party twice.
Well,
Oh, the other Jedi left.
yeah, yep. Your personality recombined, right?
Hey, I have split personality at times. I'm good with it.
Right? Hey.
Hey, it just needs more to love from me, right?
Yep, that's right. So I was trying to share this book that I put together for Arizona because I got it all together, and um, I'm trying to make sure that it's relevant, and then I start going into looking at some of the source information that I've been collecting, right? And you go to different websites for different source information. And one of the sources that I was working with, I find it has a total and complete error in what they're talking about, like how courts deal with families and child custody cases. And so then I had to go and look it up in another place. And I learned, I think it was Michigan. Wait a minute. So many things that I have here. I'm working on so many things. It's unfortunate that
Oh,
Michelle.
Lyra, I can't. I would go brain dead if I did so much research. I would really go brain dead. I am already overloaded from having to learn CPS and then learn what worked for me and apply it to parents who desperately need someone to jump in and stop the chaos.
Right.
Although I have also learned that because I had a CPS case when my son was real little, and it was over something I didn't do, and that case was dismissed without prejudice, or not with. Is it without prejudice towards me? Or yeah, without prejudice towards me, which means
Wow.
that was a good thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And CPS turned around and threw, even though that case was dismissed without prejudice, threw that back into my lap and said, well, you had a CPS case back in blah, blah, blah. And I was like, are you, excuse my French right about now, effing kidding me? That case was dropped, and now you're using a case on me that had been dropped because I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, by the way, I was imprisoned on that case for 6 months, unlawfully prisoned,
Wow.
and that was all taken off my record. I don't even want to talk about what freaking happened, but I've been through, and that was early 90s too, Lyra. So I was just on the beginning verge of all this chaos that they've created. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it doesn't, but yeah. It's
It's
horrible.
just insanity. Yeah, the system is just insane, and we're not fixing it because we're not getting to the core issues. Like in 2013, Arizona revamped CPS here in Arizona because of all the corruption and all the chaos and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go into full detail. And the only thing that they changed was the name. And the corruption got worse, not better.
Right.
And now Arizona's, sitting there, people are attacking them. But people are so afraid, Lyra. They are literally afraid of the state.
Yeah.
So Arizona, you guys have people speaking out, and I'm thinking over here, well, our system is just as corrupt as California's, and everybody just hides. And when are they going to realize that hiding doesn't fix the problem? You can say, I said this to a parent the other day. I said, you can sit there and bitch, and you may think you're entitled to bitch, but what are you doing to fix the system?
Right.
What are you doing to change the system? I apologize but you can't sit there wanting the system to change if you're not willing to do the work to get it to change.
No.
You can't expect parents. You can't expect advocates to sit there and listen to you. And excuse me, my French again, but B, day in and day out. You know what I'm referring to.
Yes.
And then and expect those advocates to be there 24/7 for you when you're not willing to do the work to help take the system down.
Yeah. Gotta. Everybody has to do their part, whatever that part may be.
And you know, I understand that parents that are right in the middle of it are in crisis. But you know, you have a 3-year-old case, and this is one case that I've worked on, is a 3-year-old case, Lyra, and the the parents, all they want to do is complain about their what civil rights that have been violated, blah blah blah, you know. And then I sit there and I read the case where they refuse to do this or they refuse to do that, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're refusing to do all this other stuff, then you have plenty of time to go out there and protest, and you have plenty of time to do X, Y, and Z. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm uncertain on. There's no magic wand in this. 1 minute, one way will work effectively to return a child, the next minute it won't. The newest thing that's going on in Arizona now is they're doing psychosexuals on people, and then you know that tells them if you could possibly turn into a rapist, a murderer, or if you're transgendered, or how is that even legal?
I don't know. It's profiling. It's just like they're doing with the what is it? Gender, not race. The racial profiling. It's all profiling and stuff. And
Well,
here's,
I'm just wondering how that's even legal to do a psychosexual on parents.
I don't think it's legal at all. I wanted to share this with you. This is, okay, there's several things. So in North Carolina, okay, they have laws. So here's North Carolina. This is one of the pages, but I wanted to show this to you because this is what they did in the court. So in their code for juvenile court system in Carolina, North Carolina, right? They have
Mm-hmm.
done this whole thing where they are specifically saying that to provide procedures for the hearing of juvenile cases that assure fairness and equality and that protect constitutional rights of juveniles and parents, to develop a deposition in each juvenile case that reflects consideration of the facts, the needs and limitations of the juvenile, and the strengths and weaknesses of the family, to provide for services for the protection of juveniles by means that respect both the right of the family, autonomy, and the juvenile's needs for safety, continuity, and permanence, to provide standards for the removal, when necessary, of juveniles from their home, and for the return of juveniles to their homes consistent with preventing the unnecessary or inappropriate separation of juveniles from their parents, to provide standards consistent with the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997. So, you know, you think it's all just fine and dandy until you get to this last provision. Okay. And this is where, you know, it's so deceptive. So deceptive. They're saying, oh, well, it has to be consistent with the standards of the Adoptions and Safety Families Act of 1997. This is Title IV. Title 4E funding. They're just including here in this language. So it's like all the way up until here, they're saying the family structure, and this is about the civil rights of the family structure.
They're giving parents hope with it.
They're giving parents hope, but then at the very end, they're saying, "Oh, but you know, we're going to just go with the standards of the Adoption and Safe Families Act." Excuse me, wait a minute. This is what we're trying to get people to understand about this, and it's just, we can beat ourselves till we're black and blue trying to fight this court system, but as long as the law remains in the Adoption and Safe acts of
Well, you got to get rid of that first.
it stays in effect. But yeah, we have to get rid of it because as long as it stays in effect, it doesn't matter how many judges we get rid of. It doesn't matter how many representatives or that we change, how many legislators we change here. It's all going to go back to this Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997. This is our big enemy. And, I try to get people to understand that. And I know Karen is fighting really hard on that one too, Karen Riley. And, we just keep on talking about this.
They're 2 for 2.
And I feel that, I don't want to be beating a dead horse, but this isn't a dead horse. This is a live fucking animal, and it's scary as fuck. And if we don't deal with that issue, anything else is just really inadequate, unsubstantial. So that's kind of where I'm at. So when I hear about let's do judicial accountability on this one judge, no, it needs to be judicial accountability for the whole damn.
But that's not going to help when we
it's not going to fix it. It has to be
the Family Safe Care Act of 1997 is what started the downfall of family court and dependency courts.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't getting that. And first of all, you can't just go after judges. When you do a drug bust, I always like to do it this way. Because I look at CPS as doing we'll take it as human trafficking. Yeah. That's more appropriate in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we have the small time human traffickers, and then we have the big time human traffickers. Well, in order to get to the big time human traffickers, we got to take out the small time human traffickers because they're going to roll on the big time human traffickers. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now the problem that we have right here is we have small time human traffickers in our family court system, i.e. attorneys. That's your small-time human traffickers.
Yes.
Now, your first off is CPS, which is big-time human traffickers. Now, then, right after you have the small-time, you have your middleman, which is the judges. The judges are your middlemen. People refuse to see that the judges are your middlemen. Then you have CPS. CPS, believe it or not, branches out kind of like a tree. It goes juvenile and family. And they combine them both as if a parent's custody battle over their children is really bad, then they combine it. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
So it's a tree effect. I can literally draw you out a map of how this actually works. And people aren't listening, Lyra, and that's scary.
It is.
And what's even more scary is California is taking it one step further, Lyra, and that one step further, to me, is now they want you to do testing before you can bring your child home from the hospital.
No, it's even worse than that. They've made it so that before you even have your child, they can do an in-home check, a well check. If you are on welfare or have some disabilities, they can come in and do a well check of your house before your child is even born.
It's more freaking human trafficking.
It's totally human trafficking. And the thing is that there's, I don't know about your state, but in my state, there's a whole bunch of ads that are commercials on radio stations and television about
foster care and adoption.
Yes. And how great it is to be a foster parent or an adoptive parent. And how wonderful you are for taking in this child that has been abused or neglected, and that's not even the case. And they act like
but it goes even further in California. I happen to know somebody that just went through this bullshit, and they were a foster parent. They adopted a little girl that was truly abused. She was sexually abused by her father, and it was proven. The father's sitting in prison. They adopted her. They brought her into her home. The little girl had some disabilities and stuff. And she was acting up in school and all this other stuff. And the family's doing the best they can. What they didn't know is when they adopted her, they didn't know about the sexual abuse. That came out later. It was awful. It was real awful. So now they have not only lost their adopted daughter, but they have lost their own biological children, 2 of them.
Horrible.
So now they're not just trafficking our children. Now pay attention to what I'm saying by this, because those are foster and adoptive families that they're bringing in. You want to know why they're wanting more foster and adoptive families? 1, they're either not abusive enough, or 2, they've already taken their children as well.
Yeah.
They're going to run out of places, and they're going to have to start opening orphanages.
Well, and that just goes right into the private jail system, and that's free labor for those big companies that don't want to pay.
And institutionalizing our children.
Yeah, that's and drugging them beyond recognition. In fact, one of the parent advocates said, well, let's see, I can't find it right this very instant. I have a parent advocate who's keeps on shouting out, hey, there's a lot of children that are being used as test subjects for drugs of all kinds. Stop drugging our children.
Yeah, the medical kidnap kids are getting it real hard.
Yeah, they are, and it's beyond.
Do you know what the lifespan? Do you know what the lifespan of a medically kidnapped child is in CPS custody?
I don't know.
Okay, now this is just from personal research and talking to parents that their kids were medically kidnapped. The medical kidnap lifespan of a child in CPS custody is 2 years.
Oh my God.
That is scary. When they can live a full life with their parents.
Wow.
And that's just from, I'm dead serious. That's just talking to parents that have had their children medically kidnapped. And that's out of 100 people, all 100 of them have lost their children.
Yeah.
Have had to bury their children. And get this, there's only one family that I've talked to that has been allowed to be at the funeral.
What?
Yep, only one parent that I know out of 100 parents was allowed to be at the funeral.
That's crazy.
Their rights were severed. They were medically kidnapped. They were used as science projects.
I was trying to show earlier about this. Nationwide, states are expected to receive roughly $7 billion in Title IV funding in 2012. That was in 2012. Title E funding, okay? $7 billion. You know what Title E funding is, okay? Everybody needs to understand this. Title 4E funding is the funds that come from Social Security, and they get transferred for incentivized adoption, okay? People need to understand.
But people aren't, and the problem is that people aren't. They're fighting it in the wrong direction. Every time I start to pull in the right direction, especially here in Arizona, and I know it's the right direction because even the legislators and that start getting pissed off at me.
Right.
So I know it's the right direction when I'm pissing them off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And every time we start to pull in the right direction, everybody goes in a totally different direction. And I'm like, dude, you guys are losing the battle because you're not fighting it right.
Right. Well, yeah, yes, we need to be filing lawsuits and criminal suits against every fraudulent act that any of these social workers and judges are committing against parents and children, and civil rights violations that they're committing against us. We must file charges against them, but that is not going to change the continual machine here. This machine is going to keep on grinding, and they're going to take more and more children to be able to make enough money to pay for all of the claims that we're lodging against them. And the only way that we can stop that grinding machine is to take away Title IV. Just
Well, and then states are now claiming they have more rights over your children than you do. That's a new thing that's coming up forth.
Yes,
And I've heard that come out of CPS workers' mouths, and I'm like, really? Where the hell did you get that from?
well, and
You don't.
they're being wrongfully told that because of the contract that as a parent you sign when you sign up for a birth certificate in the hospital, that is you signing for your child to be registered in the state that they were born in, and that makes them property of the state. That is
Yeah.
an illegal contract, and everybody who has done this needs to go to their court and revoke their signature from that contract. You can file a revocation, letter of revocation to take your name off of the list, take your child's name off of that list. Okay, take
Oh, I
every
didn't even know you
family's
could do
name
that.
off of that list. You know, but in the proprietary nature of things, the state is a corporation. The United States of America is a corporation that was formulated in the 1800s, and I don't remember the exact date, but it was in a law that they passed in the Constitution, and therefore null and voided their um, alliance with the people of the United States of America, the citizens, the natural citizens of this country. And we are
Hmm.
sovereign. We are sovereign citizens. We do not, no company, no corporation can own a human being. And the more of us who know that, the better. We got to keep on telling people that.
Yeah, but trying to get people to listen is another story, and you know that as well as I do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really hard to get people to listen, and people are going to do it their way, and you know that, Lyra.
Well, I'm just hoping people can be more open-minded and understanding and educated. Got to learn
Yeah,
what's really
well,
going on
you
here.
know, I really wish that would happen myself, but I've come to realize that I can preach and I can preach and I can show and I can do what I can do, but if people aren't willing to open their minds and realize and see it at face value, then I I'm doing an injustice to myself as well.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
terrible. It's
You know, am I making sense when I say
yeah,
that?
you are. It's just terrible the state of the situation we're in, and
You know, it's and a lot of people are like, "Well, my kids, my kids, my kids." Okay, yeah, my, that's why I'm in this fight is because of my kids. But we need your help at doing this. I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone.
so here I'm sharing that article that you submitted last week on Ohio and their new laws that are protecting families in the state of Utah. Uh,
Uh huh.
so
that is a move forwards though.
this is where you were saying that the police officers are the ones that are in charge of deciding whether or not a child is in danger. The bill also narrows
Yep.
and constrains some of the conditions upon which a child can be taken. For example, whereas current law allows a child to be taken from his or her parents due to emotional damages, the bill would require the state to show substantial emotional damage that results in an observable and material impairment in the child's growth, development, or psychological functioning.
Yep.
This is House Bill
That's
356.
that bill has gotten my attention. It got my attention one because in my case the police said that my kids were not endangered. Do you see why I got and at least I'm being honest with you, it got my attention because in my personal case, you know, X, Y, and Z happened. Well, X, Y, and Z happened because A, B, and C happened. And A, B, and C was not followed because, you know, it wasn't the police that weren't following it. It was CPS going, well, we feel.
Right.
Really? Because the police don't feel. And a lot of these police are getting real fed up with CPS.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to be cocky and rude about that, but that's reality. The reality is here, and whether or not we as people, I think that bill needs to be passed around, and we need to be fighting to have that form of bill passed in our own states.
Well, I mean, I got to read through it a little more. What I saw looks pretty good. I do know that we need to be able to have something to replace the Title IV funding and the whole safe child.
We're still but still, that bill is in a better direction than what we're already in.
It is. I feel that one of the things that we do need to look at is a way that everybody can agree, because it's not just about CPS. You know, yeah, we talk a lot about CPS, but it's the family courts and, you know, the dependency case.
Yeah, but if you watched how this worked out, Lyra, and I've watched the pattern. It started off with juvenile courts, which is CPS. Then it moved on to family courts, which is divorce and custody. Now, if we resolve the issues within the CPS part of it, family court will follow. Does that make sense?
I don't trust anything.
Well, I'm just I'm looking at it from a point of view where I saw it flourish.
Right.
And maybe it's more, I don't know if, well, my thinking is absolutely not objective. It's not. But I've seen it flourish in X, Y, and Z area, and nobody's paying attention. And I'm like, guys, this is where it all started out. And I keep pinpointing it. And I kind of feel, and it's not you, it's people in the movement, period. And I'm like, look, this is where it's all started out. You know, I'm telling you how to fix it. And part of fixing it is going backward. And everybody goes, well, that bill took us backwards. Well, yeah, the bill took us backwards. It took us backwards into the 40s, which is a good thing because the police managed if the children are being abused.
And they have more of a
they're trained.
Yeah. To know when a person is dangerous, whether a person is abused or abusing somebody, whether a person is actually intoxicated and drugged. They have been trained, whereas the social workers and BCF workers that come to your door to investigate have no training whatsoever.
Exactly.
They don't even have a college degree most of the time.
Exactly. This is why I keep pointing out. Everybody goes, no, this is a bad bill. This is a bad bill. I'm like, no, this is a good bill. Because even though we went backwards, it actually is a step forward. Does that make sense?
Well, I will have to read it some more, but I think that sometimes it is good to take a step backwards, because sometimes we end up walking on the wrong path, taking the wrong Y exit.
We've been on the wrong path for a long time.
Yeah.
Now it's time, and now it's time to move forwards, and whether or not people would like to admit it, sometimes you have to go backwards in order to go forwards.
Yes.
I would rather go backwards in order to go forwards, and then continue the issues that we're having right now, Lyra, is we push forward, the child, and that's all you hear in the news. And then now all of a sudden we have something that could thrust us forwards. And people are, and I get your hesitation, but in my case, and I'm going to refer back to my case because I got freaking jailed. I got, my door kicked in. I got, I hear all these parents going, well, I still don't got my kids. Dude, I freaking was arrested. I was jailed. I want to go. I'd rather go backwards and have the police in charge than CPS.
Well,
That's realistic. Realistically, I would rather go backwards and have CPS in charge.
I'm being told I've got 10 minutes. We've been talking a long time. I'm glad we have been talking. I was going to ask you on a personal note if you had received any of the Reiki attunements that I shared over the past week.
I watched the one and I started watching down the rabbit hole, and I think I watched about half of it and I fell asleep. So I had to go back and finish it. I've been I don't know if you've seen on my Facebook, but we've been I made sure I had time for this.
Thank
But
you.
if you ask everybody else that's been around me, it's been my family, my family, my family. I'm so focused on my family. And something that came to light for me recently is my family's not perfect, but it's mine.
Yeah.
And this is what I fought for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I fought to have my family, and it meant, and yeah, things have been, and I'll just be blatantly honest with you, effed up. But I wouldn't trade my family for anything else.
No, they're
That
irreplaceable.
Well, there's a lot of people that I'm in the movement that I see just give up, and I just look at it and I'm just like, but I wouldn't trade this.
Right.
It sucks. It really sucks. I've been through living hell and back with my family. But their little faces when they were little, the smiles, the laugh, the hard times, me and my wife arguing over stupid things like who's going to clean up the baby's vomit or who's going to change the dirty diaper. There wasn't an argument, but it was just a little bickering. God, that baby stinks. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'll throw up. Yeah, well, I don't want to do it. I'll throw up.
Yeah.
But here's reality. Those moments I miss.
Yeah, I do too.
And I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it. And I don't understand how parents. Now I've hit a spot where I think to myself a lot, Lyra, where I just want to say I'm done.
Yeah.
I need to move on. It's been 9 years, and then I get a breath of wind, and then I move again. And a lot of times I don't. I still, I haven't gone into depth with the legal side. My brain would explode. I'm being very honest with you. It's already imploded. I don't know how many times. So if I can just be there as a lending ear, and I do that a lot, and that's kind of my overload. You know that, Lyra.
Yeah.
But just that ear when someone's having a hard time, and sometimes just calling it when I see it. Look, you're over. What's the word I'm looking for, Lyra?
Exaggerating?
I mean, well, sometimes parents will over exaggerate what's going on, and you're like, wait a minute, where did you get that out of all of this?
Yeah.
And no, don't get me, when we're right in the middle of a crisis, we're all that way. As a parent, I just don't know. I really don't know how to. I'm not sure what people are wanting from us, unless they're willing to fight the same battle. Does that make sense?
It does. And I feel that we're still working on formulating it together. I think Ted has some good information, and he was very great to join us tonight. And I hope that we can work some more on that. And it's really late. I'm surprised because I know that it was 7 here and it's 3 hours later over there. So it was 10 when he joined in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel that we're still just barely scratching the surface here. And I was hoping that maybe, we could get some solid shows down. We were talking about having some grandmothers or people who are well versed in grandparents' rights and stuff. And I'd like to be able to get a show together for that. I'd like to be able to bring people in, not just to talk, but to organize what we're doing, because I'm hearing a lot of the same things over again, and I feel that we've got to put some lists together for people to follow. When people ask me, like, well, I'm at this point, I just got my case closed, or my parental rights are about to be taken away, what do I do? Well, I can tell you from my own experience that you can file a complaint, a damages claim with the board of directors. You can file an incident report with the director of Department of Children and Families, or CPS. You can also file a complaint with the board of directors that is different from the damages claim. And you have 2 years between the time that the case is closed to the time that you can file a damages claim, because it's not physical damage. It is not integrity, but that's along the same lines.
Emotional, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, and your character, like defamation of character. Okay, this is something.
Yeah, it doesn't work here in Arizona. I filed all that. It all got freaking rejected. Now my only hope is.
But I think that the more people that do it, I think a part of this is that we've got to get enough rejections in, like the rejection I got from CPS here on the West Coast, the main Civil Rights Division of CPS or DCFS or whatever. And they're just saying, oh, well, it's not our business. Yeah, so what? The social workers discriminated against you and violated your civil rights, but that's not our business. That's not what we can do. Really? Then why are you there?
No, yeah, that's what I ask all the time. Well, what are we doing?
Right. So, but if enough people come and say, hey, I got the same letter from this Department of Civil Rights and Health and Human Services saying that they can't do anything and my civil rights violate, that I've been violated my civil rights, then, we take it and we say, okay, well, then if they can't deal with it, then we go to the next stage, and it's just about getting those ducks in a row so that a whole bunch of people can just follow the same steps, and
Yeah.
when the departments are flooded with these letters, and we flooded the president's office with these letters. I mean, it's got to do something, and if it doesn't do anything there, we can always go to, luckily, television, news, local and
Nope.
national.
Arizona news don't do nothing.
Arizona.
You go. Oh yeah, nope.
No more.
Not in Arizona. Arizona, that does not happen.
Wow. Because I know that there's a lot of stink here in California now. A lot of television stations are taking up the cause, and ABC and CBS have both done several pieces, but they've just scratched the surface again. We're still just scratching the surface. Right now it's about foster care abuse and neglect, and about drugging infants that shouldn't be drugged and stuff. That's what they're starting to talk about now. But I've seen some pieces where they have gone after social workers, and so it's starting to get through one step at a time.
Well, I hope, I really hope they start attacking it here in Arizona, but we have some people here in Arizona that we're not fighting it right. So,
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know either, Ryan. we're almost about to be cut short, so I want to bid you a good night, Ryan. Okay, and
All right.
don't give up hope. You keep the faith. If the people in Arizona are too closed-minded, well, we'll just have to make them look again, open their